Yes, Commissioner Young.
I'm here.
All right. And Jeb will be joining us shortly, and maybe also Jeff, but it's probably hard to be in two places mentally at once. So
Yeah.
we understand. Great.
And Hannah, I'm glad you could make it.
Great.
All
All
right.
right.
So the next thing will be I mean, the agenda is just mostly a list of updates, so I think we
Yep.
can move forward on that.
Yep.
And so the next thing is if there's any public comment.
All right. Well, if a member of the public would like to participate, now you may do so. The instructions are on the agenda, and we'll give people a couple moments. I'm not seeing anyone as of yet, um, but let's just give it, I know there is that lag, so let's give it a few moments. And we do need to say we called the meeting to order at 5:33.
Oh, I am sorry.
That's okay.
Falling down on my duties here.
No worries. All right, I am still not seeing anyone that would like to participate, so I believe there's no public comment in this version. If there is anyone listening, you may be able to participate at the second public comment if you are present.
All right. So that'll move us on to the regular business, which includes the general updates. And on the first thing on the list is new vendors.
All right, so we are continually getting new applicants. There are two we are thinking about, actually, three that we are thinking about right now. One is a pasta vendor, which would be very exciting because we used to have a pasta vendor. We also used to have Amish noodles, but we have neither of those things this year. So that would be really great if we could have this dried pasta person. And from her product list, looked like there was some exciting varieties and a sort of different twist on things that do use vegetables as well that are seasonal and local. So that was pretty exciting. Another one is there is the Moly Roly people. We're again still just waiting for their licensing to move forward to go from temporary to permanent. And then they will be joining. They are the team of international students from China that have very exciting baked goods, very unique, something that would be culturally appropriate to a lot of our customers, as well as something unique for others to try. And then we have not made any firm decisions yet, but we had a French baker show up, I believe it was on Saturday, and bring us some samples of their Provençal Southern French style items. So that's exciting. So we're not sure about that one, but the other two are definitely going forward. We just have not notified them yet, um, because we will be doing that this week. And that is
I'm ass-
all. Yeah. Uh-huh. Go ahead.
I'm assuming that the baker is because there's lots of bakers at the market right now.
Right. Although, we have had a little bit of transition with a few of ours that found that, they're not sure if they can make the time commitment. So that's what we're assessing to see, if there's a spot available specifically for more French baked goods. But the other side is there's a huge demand in Ann Arbor for French style pastries. But yes, that's what we're assessing. And it's also very new. We just received the application as well.
Fantastic. All right. And the next thing is the annual vendor stall move up. Oh, and here's Jeb.
Jeb is here. All right, I will write them down. Hello, Jeb.
Still connecting.
Yes, he can probably hear us, but or perhaps not. Great. So while he's doing that, I could just give a quick recap of the move up. All right, there he is. Hello, Jeb. Can you hear us? Okay, or not. Well, I'm sure he'll chime in when he can.
Yeah.
Okay, so the move up actually went very well. It was on September 30th after market. It's always something that makes a lot of people nervous for a lot of different reasons, customers, or not customers, excuse me, vendors and staff alike. But it went very, very well. We were kind of pleasantly surprised that a lot of people who were daily vendors ended up getting the spots that they had been using anyway. Same thing with a few of our annual vendors. They were able to claim the spots that they have been using. So that was actually really good. We had some other people finally able to get their two stalls together that they had been waiting for a really long time too. So it seemed to be really successful. Oh, he's off again. Maybe he's having connectivity issues. So that was something that we were really excited about. And then, um, in terms of confusion and all the things that had led up to that with stalls and stall conflict, the Wilsons were able to get a third stall relatively close to where their other two stalls are. So that seems to be resolved as well.
Hey, Deb, can you hear us now?
Hello.
Now I can, yeah.
There you are.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about apologies.
Oh no, you're good. You got
No,
here, and that's the key. So we
because
were just talking about move up and what it was like for daily
Okay,
vendors claiming their stalls and for people moving around and all that good stuff. And
gotcha.
also that the Wilsons were able to get their third stall. So that has taken some of the pressure off the situation that we had previously discussed in here. So that
Okay,
seems to be resolved. So that's also really good because they got their third stall relatively close by, if in the event that they need it, if Ray is not present. So
great. I enjoyed observing. It was great to see all the
yeah,
shuffling around and you guys handled it well with the board and then the map. I was like, wow, this is like a game of chess.
yes, it was a lot to do all at once, but Hannah is a great board shuffler, so was able to keep it organized and make it seem so simple. But it was not.
So
Yeah, it was
instead,
great. Yes, go ahead.
I just had a couple of follow-up questions. I'm assuming that you do a bunch of background work, especially with the daily vendors, to see who really wants to move up to an annual and things like that. I know it's based on the seniority list, but um, um, I'm assuming there's some back-end stuff since you had already also told people that they should show up because there's a good chance they'll be able to pick their annual vendor stalls.
Right. So how it works is based on the way the rules are written, that we have to have double the amount available. So the way it's supposed to work, say we had 12 open spots, it's supposed to be 6 for annual vendors, potentially adding another, and 6 for new dailies. So based on that figure is how I knew who to talk to. The snafu there is when there's an annual like that doesn't want another stall because they're already maxed out or they just don't need it. There is a few left over. So we did have a few stalls left over. And we had some questions about, if the next person in line, for example, really wanted to be annual status. So that's sort of how that works. But we all came to consensus amongst, vendors and us too, that it's good to have a couple extra just in case, especially in areas that are not high demand. So that way it makes it a little easier in the future, as well as more flexible during market days. So,
Well, and the way it worked out with those two stalls right by the
right.
office,
Yep.
given that the status of the office is crumbling, quite literally,
Right.
that's probably good to have those open. And then were there some annuals on the list were there some dailies on the list that decided to stay dailies or
not of the people that we told were getting their seniority, but there were some people that sent a representative that they weren't
Right.
there personally. They just sent a representative to claim the stall. So like John Cox was one of those that couldn't be there. He wanted to be there but had a sick cow. So he needed to stay back. And Mark from Sealy Farm was his representative. Mark was also the representative for Whitney Farm. So we did. So that is something also that the rules spells out that folks can do.
Okay, great. All righty. So the next thing on the list, unless, Jeb, did you have any questions about move up or anything like that?
I do not.
Okay, great. Next thing on the list is the events.
All right. Well, we just finished last night our series of food truck rallies for the season. So hooray. We got super lucky that we had very nice weather. It was both warm, the sun came out multiple times, not too cold. And we actually, we're always nervous at this time of year whether or not there's going to be a turnout or whether or not we did enough marketing. I feel like there's always that concern, right? Right around 4:30, you're like, are people actually going to show up at 5? But they did show up and it was great. A lot of people were still there, well after 8 o'clock as well. There was even like a salsa club or something dancing in the market at one point during the food truck rally. So people really utilized the space well. The only damper on the night was that our live music had canceled. So we did not have live music this time. And we had a regular who was somewhat disappointed. He had his chair all ready. But yeah, unfortunately, both of the bands we'd had at the September rally had members that couldn't make it. So, we just had to roll with it. And again, if we had maybe known in advance, we could have had another backup, but alas. But yeah, I think it still was really successful, had a really nice turnout. We had a lot less trucks, both in terms of just, this time of year, some food trucks are already done for the season, but others we did have some last minute cancellations. So we had about 13, I believe, 12 or 13. So it was a really good number. And I think, it wasn't overwhelming in terms of choices, but there was a really good variety. And good enough turnout that I feel like everybody was able to get customers. So I think it worked out well. But what do you think, Hannah?
Yeah, I think it went well. I was surprised that people were there past 8, well past 8 for us to clean up, but they were enjoying the route, so that was
Yeah.
good.
So hooray. But we're done. Next one next year. We'll see. If will it be July? Will it be earlier? Will it be later? Probably not later, but will it be earlier is a question we will answer when we do our event planning in the spring.
The other thing I wanted to ask Stephanie is about the week, because you guys have a couple long days here with the food truck rally and then this meeting right afterwards. And I didn't
Right.
know, I know they used to be the first week of the month, and you had lots of good reasons for changing that, but I didn't know if you want to explore, the second or fourth. Just throwing that out there as an idea.
No, I mean, also, like, if we did it those other weeks, there might be the potential for bumping up against art fair, which we don't necessarily want to do either. So I feel like, there's a lot that can be said for other things, but I don't think we need to change it yet again. I think that would just sort of confuse people, if we have a different schedule every year. So and for the most part, I think this worked really well. And my opinion of October is, there's still plenty of outdoor events. There's still other things. But what I was thinking, well, could make it more fun next year is if we get a little bit more Halloween involved, if we maybe have like a costume contest or something like more Halloweeny in the mix. I think that might be something that sort of like takes a lot of the pressure off of will people show up to the October rally, because if it's Halloween themed, obviously people will certainly show up even more so than they would have otherwise. But I think the third week has been working well
Okay.
for us.
All righty. I like that Halloween idea because there used to be some Halloween events at the market, I think, prior to
Right.
COVID.
Yep. And last year we did partner with Give 365 for Wednesday market. We had, candy stations, we had costumes, we had put a sticker on a pumpkin for kids. I think Give even brought their like mini golf green and stuff. So this year, because of staffing issues at Give, they're not able to do a whole event, but we've talked about doing something scaled down because it's going to be, the Saturday weekend before Halloween. We were thinking of having candy stations and things like that. We had planned on doing similar things to what we did last year with Give, but unfortunately, the staffing issue intervened. But we will have something.
Right. Good. All right. So the next thing on the list is the facilities and repairs.
Yep. So, we had a consultant with the firm that the city's retained to look at the building come to market recently, and explain to her sort of some of the things that were going on with the issues with the building. We showed it to her in person, so they have a very clear understanding sort of our experiences with the space and the things we've noticed. Mentioned the continual issues we've been having with the plumbing in the bathroom, because our hunch, obviously we are not water experts, but our hunch is that, there's got to be something related to this, because, it's clearly that water is somehow involved. But so explained her to that, explained also that based on the slope inside the market office building and where the downspout is on the other side, we have an issue where when it rains really hard, water goes straight through the building, which has resulted in the past in wood rot on the doors, the outside doors specifically. So, just made sure they were aware of all of the additional things that may just not be visible if you're doing, an inspection there when it's dry, or things like that. So that was really good in terms of that. Otherwise, there's not really any movement forward in terms of any more updates on that particular thing, because we're still at that stage of, brainstorming what we want to see. And I think that's a separate item for the agenda if we want to just push that to the back. Good news I have on the fixing of the gutters and the fixing of the pipes. We have been given a date of November 11th when they will be coming out and fixing all of these things. Because this year, as in many years, we have a lot of damages to the gutter, to the piping, that we've been asking them to fix for a very long time. But they had to get a third party in to help with it. So I believe that's what explains the delay. But the date we have is specifically November 11th for those updates.
Have there been
sorry, go ahead.
Have there been any more bathroom issues? You mentioned something about flooding in the bathrooms and things like that last time.
No, not since we had the plumber out, I believe on 3 occasions to address all of these issues. We've been having an issue with the urinal water flow level, but they sort of showed me how to do like a quick fix on it. And we're still monitoring that. I don't know if it's 100% fixed, but it has not been a problem the last few markets.
Okay, great. Thank you. The next thing is the PMAC Carytown vacancy.
All right. So I do not know if the person we all discussed last meeting, has applied yet.
She has.
Okay. Well, I have not seen it yet. So again, I have to wait till the clerk refers it and etc.
Could you double check on that? Because I don't know if she got any response from the city, and I've had whole bunches of problems filling out their applications.
Right.
So.
I can check. As I said, I have not seen it on Legistar, which is how I can sort of go in and check the status of everyone's stuff. But I can reach out to Sarah at the clerk's office and ask her. But I was going to say that Hannah and I have both talked to her in person and expressed
Great.
our enthusiasm of
Great.
the potential of her joining us. But I'm
Great.
not going to release her name until it's official. But we all know who
Great.
we're talking about.
That would be wonderful. And if you find that there's a glitch with the application, I'm happy to go between or contact her directly, please. So, because it would be nice to onboard her.
Yes. So the other thing is we do have to wait for city council to vote to promote, and then they have to vote to officially adopt that promotion. And we have known from Jeb's experience that can take a little bit of time. So, but hopefully not too much time.
Yeah. Well, if the application got lost somehow, that would be better to know sooner rather than later.
Of course.
Yeah, great. Good. Wonderful. Next thing on the agenda is the vendor survey.
All right. So Hannah has been diligently working on this. It is very close to completion. I know I was poking around on it right before the meeting. So it will be in two formats. One, it will be as a Google form distributed to whoever wants to fill it out digitally. And then for whoever wants to do it in person, we will also have copies available. And we hope to go live with it, I want to say at some point next week.
Fantastic. Good. And I'm glad you decided to have an electronic option.
And thank you for Hannah for your diligent work putting it together. That was great.
All right. So then that was the general update. So now we're on to the continuing conversations.
All right. So I just have a very quick update on this first item. I just wanted to confirm that it has been referred to the city legal department for review. Beyond that,
yeah.
I have heard nothing.
Okay.
So, but yes, it's in process.
Okay, great. Well,
They did tell me which member of the team at legal will be taking care of it. It's the same person that helped with our last update to the rules. So that should be really good.
Perfect. Well, we'll look forward to what the city has to say about the changes in the PMAC bylaws. Then,
yes.
Then the next thing is the producer-only subcommittee.
All right, and Jeb and I spoke about this yesterday, and still gathering info. We're still in that gathering process, and I think Jeff mentioned also last time he would be willing to be involved more when it gets closer to winter, when it gets closer to off season. I wanted to keep it on the agenda, so it is something that we're still aware of, but we don't have any new updates unless Jeb has anything to add.
I don't. Nope. Still gathering and making sure I understand my role in this. So we'll meet, talk about this again.
We'll table it to next meeting.
Great. And then we have the market office building repairs.
All right. So this is our visioning session. I don't know if people had time to think about this or wanting to talk about this, but I thought that could be a moment. I know it's hard when half the commission is not here to want to go through with this, but I wasn't sure if folks had thoughts or ideas about what this could look like.
So just to reiterate, your understanding is that the city is not thinking about repairing the office that you had because it's expensive, and and that there are many other needs at the market.
I think it's still sort of not definitively decided. I think they're still weighing cost. But I think in order to understand like what costs could look like, they wanted to see some more tangible ideas. So we can say, hey, if we were to do X, Y, or Z, they could go to the architect and the architect could say X, Y, or Z will be this much. Right. So the main thing really would be like, are they repairing just the foundation? Or are they repairing slash improving slash rebuilding the whole structure, was the way that it was presented to me, if that makes sense.
So, do you know what the expectations are with the city in terms of visioning? Do they want a list of sort of needs that need to be met at the market?
They already have that information. I think they more want sort of tangible ideas of what specifically could be done. Right? So for example, say it was like clean slate, what would be the ideal is one level. And then taking those ideas and funneling it through pragmatism and coming out with a viable solution is where we are at currently.
Well, so my ideal would be if they're going to build a new building, that there's also a conversation about what would happen with the market canopy, building in, thinking about how to create a structure that would also would provide not only a wonderful welcoming space for the Ann Arbor Farmers Market, but that could also mesh with some of the City of Ann Arbor A20 goals, because I just see the farmers market being, as we mentioned before, the one of the hearts of sustainability in Ann Arbor, not only for environmental sustainability, but also for the social and economic sustainability of the city. So that's big picture.
Right. And just to clarify, when you mean the structure, you mean this part just near the building or the entire roof structure?
I mean, I'm open to anything. This is where the feasibility comes
Right. I was
into
just trying to
me.
clarify for the minutes, but
Yeah. I mean, I think the other thing is we've talked about the winterization project. I think we could reconceptualize that. Instead of winter, we could think of wind protection, and some of the remodeled canopy space. There could be thinking about it. Is this just providing protection for the vendors that are there during the really cold months, or since we now have pretty bad windstorms and pretty bad wind throughout a good chunk of the year, do we expand and provide that wind protection during other months of the year? So winterization, I think about when it's really cold and you need to protect things from freezing, whereas the wind, I've seen really bad windstorms rip through that space in April, and Stephanie, you probably have a better idea of when the wind gets really bad at the market.
I mean, it could get bad at any time of year, honestly.
Yeah.
So, and especially those west southwest, those are the worst for us. It's funny because we had a higher wind quotient, a higher wind speed on Wednesday, or maybe it was Saturday. Anyway, it was a recent market, but it was coming from the northeast. And people were like, oh, yeah, the wind's really not even that bad, even though it was like 15 mile an hour, but we had the protection of the Carytown building.
Mm-hmm.
The caveat with all of this is that we'll see what happens with the developments and if they help us or make the wind worse. But no, I think it is definitely a concern for a lot of people. And I know many artisans and others, don't come to market when it's above 15 mile an hour because it's too dangerous for their products to get damaged.
Yeah. Well, and where I've seen it really, really bad is along Detroit Street.
Right. Yeah, I mean, at the end of July, I was not there, but that was terrible. People's tents were breaking, the trash cans were all in the street blowing trash, so it was just and that of course was a very, very, very bad where we had straight line derecho winds of 70 plus gusts. But yes, something to think about for sure.
Yeah, and not only one of my priorities is always the protection for the vendors, but I've been there a couple times when the winds have come up, and it's feeling like it's dangerous for the customers too. And as
Sure.
a city park, the city should be thinking about those sort of issues as well.
Yep.
So one of my dreams, it would be to also collaborate with the Office for Sustainability with the city to there's old solar panels on the Ann Arbor Farmers Market, but wouldn't it be amazing to create some sort of structure that could also solar power the market and also help with one of the other issues that's there with the electricity being sometimes limited for some of the vendors.
Electricity?
Yeah,
What do you mean?
one of the vendors had told me that in the winter when she comes, if she and the person who's next to her, if they both
Oh, right.
plugged
It's just
in
because of too
electric
much.
heaters. Yeah.
Right. Well, I think it's also just because there's too big of a load on too small of a circuit. But yeah. But that I think is also would be addressed by having it be warmer. But there's a lot of people that use propane heaters as a result of that, so they don't have to even be plugged in. But I hear what you're saying. And this
Well,
reminds me to something I forgot to mention when I was mentioning the facility, which may or may not be related to this, but we are finally getting new wireless
Ah,
excuse me, units put up under the roof. What's really funny is that IT, they told me a couple weeks ago, they're like, oh, we boosted the signal. It's great. It's going to work well. And then they went back to try it out on a Wednesday market, and they were like, oh, wait, we didn't realize that these trucks would disrupt the signal so much. They're like, yeah, this is only on a Wednesday. So they're going to put 4 signal boosters under the roof, so that we should actually have very good wireless once that project is completed. And if we change the roof, I don't know how that would be impacted, but just something to think about. Um, Not to mention, the roof is not like officially a historic structure, but is very historically significant because it was a WPA project in the Depression era. And yes, it has been rebuilt before in the 90s, but that is also something to be aware of. That is an important part of history too.
it's not
Which,
on the National Register though.
well,
So.
I know. I said yes. I mentioned that, but it is still significant to us as
Yeah.
the
Well,
community. And to
I-
notice that those were projects that did happen, and that was something that came about specifically because of that. Because remember, we were at the space in the 30s for about 10 years with no roof at all. Um, so just something to be aware of when we navigate these things.
Yeah, I mean, I think a creative designer could think about replicating, not exactly, because it'd be nice to have a structure that wasn't always having the gutters damaged and things like that with the larger trucks that people have now. But I think the character of the structure could be definitely acknowledged and taken into account in the design.
Right.
And some of that design was also limited because there was the house that used to be in where the sand lot is now. And so when it was planned out, it was there was still some residential areas around it.
Right. And honestly, I feel like that area is utilized a lot now, and I don't really see how it could have worked if we had changed it into a structure. I know that was
Yeah.
one of the winterization projects. Plus, we would have lost a lot of parking. The other related issue is because of our space being an urban space, because we're an uneven space, we have the issues of the levels. And to me, that is something that is huge, and it's a big stumbling block for many things, right? We are not going to ever be ADA compliant with the way that the market looks, specifically just the different steps and But the issue is if we were to say level it out, that would make the parking situation a lot more difficult because it would cause, sort of like sheer drop offs with sunken spaces. It may not work either. So I feel like there's a lot of things that, our space is great for so many ways, for so many reasons, the walkability, central location. But, there's some things that perhaps worked in the past, but, make it difficult right now to sort of have these dream things. So I think, it's great to vision in general, but I think we should maybe try to focus specifically on the office building, because realistically, like that's where the focus is going to be. And then other things, maybe can build on from there.
I still would like to see some really creative design, and this is where I think if the city can come up with resources to focus on the office structure, but there was a creative design, that this is where getting some outside money through grants could definitely be a possibility. But in terms of visioning, I also think we need folks from the city to come talk to us, because I would really love to know, with that planning that happened in 2016 for the building that was proposed for the sandlot. I wasn't on the commission at the time, but I did find a lot of the old reports that I put in the Google Drive for everybody, and there was a fair amount of money committed to that project. And so I'd really love to know what the city envisions with that budget, how much that could be used to do some creative designing, and thinking about that, because in part, you've also said that there's aspects of the structure, the office building, that aren't working well for you too. So it sounds like there's lots of needs for redesign, not only the office building, but then if we can wrap some of the other issues in, like the crumbling concrete and the ADA compliance, and the thinking of creatively about the canopy to provide some more wind and weather protection, I think would be important.
Right.
And I do want to mention that one of the other vendors mentioned to me that there are areas where the concrete is sinking in the market too. So thinking about those questions that Peter asked last time with, has anybody done an assessment sort of the what's underneath the market, and why there's the corner of the office is crumbling, and then why there's sinking concrete in other places in the market.
Yeah, that's why that representative was out from the engineer, because they have retained already somebody to do an exploratory study about that very question. So that's exactly what this is focusing on already. Yeah. Because there's areas too of the sidewalk behind the office building that are sinking, much worse than other areas in the market as well. So yes, that is all related, but realistically, I think we need to focus on the office building, and then other things can be, vision. But, between all of the different projects that's already happened, because of the bicentennial and all of the other things going on, I think it's great to dream big. I just think we also do need to be realistic in that we need to focus first on the office building, because it is the most dire in need of repair, because it is literally sinking into the earth. And we have a year to address it, according to the engineers.
Yeah, but the market's about to be 105. And wouldn't that be a lovely thing to have as part of the city bicentennial, as the planning for the market? And Debbie Stabenow retiring, and I would love to see something done for her, since she's been such an amazing supporter of food and farming in the state in general, and a supporter of local food too.
Deb, do you have any thoughts on your dream office building?
No, it seems to me at the grassroots level, which is where I would be at. It seems like there's two things. One, I would want to be clear that the two projects are different. Any remodeling on the market, it sounds like it's been discussed many times before. There's a history of it. There's money for that, and then it's a separate budget, I would hope, for that building reconstruction. That seems more like a general expense than something that was budgeted for the market. And then secondly, I think we would need bullet points of 4 or 5. Just take input from vendors and what their thoughts are, and if we distill it down to 3 or 4 that we could pass along to you, and then you could pass that along to the committee or whoever, the engineers, I guess is the correct statement there. And then that would be how we could get some input. If we don't do something like that, I suspect the input's going to come from them, and we're just going to shake our heads. So, at least if we have something that we can hand you and them, just to let them know what we're thinking of, they can at least check the feasibility of it. Like for instance, Peter's idea last time. So about the extending the office and second floor, that's a different animal, but nonetheless, might be something that's a great idea.
Yeah, I like that because we need, like you were saying, we need something tangible that we can present to them and saying, hey, this would be what we want and what we think is the most feasible, that works for everybody. I do really like that second floor idea personally. I know there may be some other hidden issues with that because we really cannot lose any more parking. Bottom line, we cannot. That is something that is sort of top of my list, because knowing what's coming down the pike with the new development currently under construction as well as the other one, and the resulting loss of parking that will trigger. So I feel like having the second floor might be the only way that we can get our needs met in terms of what the market needs, and also not lose parking and potentially have a small sheltered space for events, cooking classes, really terrible days when we only have 20 vendors anyway, and people can fit in there or whatnot, a bunch of different things. So that would be really helpful if we
So
have
Jeb, one of the things
affordable.
I hear from you is sort of getting a list of vendor needs. If there, so
I agree. That's what I would suggest we do at this point. I mean, otherwise we're going to get on these meetings once a month and come up with a couple ideas. We need to be doing that off camera and not at the meetings, and come to the meetings with a list and or get it to Stephanie in advance of that. But nonetheless, we need it. And if there are people at the market that have ideas, they can certainly approach me and pass information on it. And Lisa, you're there too regularly, and Stephanie, anybody. But we just need to compile some of these ideas so that we at least have some driver to give the engineers.
Yep, I agree.
So Stephanie and Hannah, I know on the survey, one of the questions was related to if there could be, and I'm not remembering right, but if there could be some protection, something or other, would you be interested in coming more to the market in the winter or something like that? I can't remember.
The question specifically is, if the market was winterized, would you be more likely to come to market during winter months? Is how it's currently worded.
Okay, which I think is great to get an idea of increased capacity. But then when you do the survey, would there be any space for people to list, like, what are your most critical needs in the winter? Or do you think that would come out if you have the opportunities and challenges question in there? Do you think it would come out on that? Because we could do this informally, but with a survey going out, it just seems like it's also an opportunity for getting that kind of needs assessment input.
Yeah, I think there's also, we're adding anything else you'd like to add section, so that could also be captured there. There's a lot of different places that people could answer that type of question. But in terms of things we need and things we've already talked to city supervisors about, one is storage, right? We've talked about this before. The market does not have enough storage. We have stuff stored offsite. We're not sure exactly what all is there, because we don't have access to those offsite storage places. And the other constraint is the footprint that the office has is pretty much as far as we can expand it, with the exception of like maybe we could expand further on to the sidewalk without taking away the parking spot. I'm not sure how we could do that, which, it's difficult. But the building next to us, the terminus of the current building is pretty much the end of the space that we have, with the exception of where the shed is. That whole area could potentially be turned into sort of a much more functional, usable storage area. And then the other one, of course, being token access, right? Because we've adapted to the situation at the window, but it is not completely ideal because, how the window is. There's like, you're trying to look at somebody through this sometimes, or you have to crane, and it's also not the most accessible for folks in wheelchairs as well. So that's another part of this, is maybe making it curbless, making a way that our window is much more usable to everybody. So those are sort of two of our highest priorities as market staff. The other, of course, it's hard because we just redid the bathrooms, and just the prospect of kind of redoing them again. But we need to keep in mind that they're not fully ADA compliant yet. And of course, we've had some continual issues with the size of the sinks, and spraying water every place so that we have to mop during market, and so people don't hurt themselves, and things of this nature are part of it. So yeah, so those things we pretty much have covered in terms of what we're telling folks at the city and what we've already talked to them about. But anything beyond those things would be really great, and it would be fantastic if you could start making bullet points as well. And maybe also, Jeb, if you're talking to any other vendors, maybe compiling what they're saying too. And then, of course, a survey as well.
So I just have one question about the process. So, we can do some big picture visioning, but it seems like one of the things that would be most useful for the city, since they're the experts on planning these things, is just to understand needs. So, we were just talking about doing that, but when you're thinking of bullet points, are there other things beyond the kind of needs? Because I'm still a little mystified by the process that gets used, because I wasn't part of the planning for the 2016 new building.
Well, I think that process was very different because that was not in response to, infrastructure that needs repair. That was something that was going to be added on. So there was a lot more community engagement that went along with a project such as that. Whereas this one, the community engagement is the market, right? It's the vendors, it's staff, it's city. It's not going to go through the same process because, again, it's due to a repair that's needed. It's not the same process that they would have done. So the winterization process before is a very separate thing. And I think that's also like what Jeb was highlighting, is we need to think about these things as two separate things. I know, it's hard because the winterization had been a conversation for so long, but now it really does need to take a second seat to the building, because again, the building is much more critical to be fixed right now, because again, like the cracks are very large. We are sinking into the earth. I am not exaggerating. So you know what I mean? So that's what I would say to that. So in terms of the process that I know what we're doing. So right now, we'll give them the bullet points. They will talk to the engineer. They will talk to the architect. And then they will come up with some mock-ups with a potential cost estimate, as far as I know. And then the decision-making will happen at the city level for that process. As far as I know, that's how it was explained to me.
Okay. Well, it sounds like, though, when they're doing the assessment of the underlying structure of the farmers market, they're also looking at what's happening with the office building, but then other aspects of the market as well, with the sinking concrete in other places.
I mean, this particular project is focused on the office building and the immediate vicinity of the office building where there is concrete that is sinking. They're also aware of the things that are sinking in other places. But again, I believe that is a separate project in terms of repair, right? It might be on the same thing of being acknowledging that it's existing, that we have these people on retainer if needed, but that's what I keep coming back to. These need to be thought of as two separate things, even though there might be some overlap in terms of the work that could be done. But for right now, we really need to focus on the market office building project. I think we lost Jeb.
Yeah. It may have timed out on him. I think that's fine, but if they have the people out there doing the assessment of the understructure, it just seems like it would behoove the city to understand what the substrate is throughout the market while they have those experts out there doing that assessment.
Sure, but it also means there's going to be holes all over the market, and we're open year round. So that's something else to keep in mind. I don't know if you've noticed the area that they did the assessment.
I did. Yeah.
Then that would potentially be everywhere. And that's not something that we can have when markets open, because it's a tripping hazard for customers and also problematic for vendors, right? Because it's not a flat surface, right? It's just gravel in a hole.
Yeah. I bet there's other ways they can do that though. Having used augers and things like that to do assessments, to take
Right.
soil samples.
Right, but it's not as much of a critical thing as is the office building right now.
Understood. But if they've got the experts out there analyzing the substrates, just saying it would make sense to me to do an assessment of the whole area, whether that's part of the planning or not, but if they're having somebody out looking at the substrates and the what's underneath the market. So.
Jeb, we lost you there, or can you hear us? There you are. Or perhaps I can see your screen, but I cannot hear you or see you.
This because what was fine. It's just the video. There's connection problem.
Sorry. Now I can hear you. That's better.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Okay.
we lost you.
So vendors should let Jeb know sort of what they think some of the ideas for the needs at the market would be. I can sort of informally ask folks that are out there, and then Hannah and Stephanie, will you also be taking input from folks?
Already have, and yes, that's what we do.
Okay, great. Just wanted to be clear where people can let their voices be heard.
Yep.
Okay. So the other thing that I just had a question on, since I think we're done with your list, Stephanie, is are we cleared for the in-person meeting in November?
Oh.
Yes, I just spoke with Sarah today, and I did send it out in my information for vendors to participate in this, is that November 16th, Thursday, we will be in person at City Hall. Unfortunately, the council chambers is not available, but we will be in the basement conference room. And we have confirmed with the clerk's office that CTN is available, will be there, and it is accessible for folks to show up that are not part of BMAC, but would like to participate in public comment. So I do not know the capacity of that room, but I assume that it is large enough. Otherwise, she would not have suggested it.
Great. Ooh, so that might be another place if people come where we could get just the people's ideas about needs.
Yep, exactly.
That would be great. Okay. So I think we're through all the regular business. Anything else that anybody wants to bring up? Okay.
No, not that I can think of.
Any new business? Okay, then we're on to second public comment.
All right. Is there any members of the public that would like to provide a comment? on any item on the agenda or something not on the agenda. If you would like to participate, please raise your hand virtually. Not seeing anyone yet, but we will let the lag go a little bit. For those listening, you just need to do *9 if you do want to participate in public comment. All right, I am not seeing anyone.
All
Oh,
right.
now I am.
Great.
All right, go ahead. You can unmute. Just let us know your name before you speak. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Debbie Marks. Can you hear me okay?
Hey, Debbie. Yes, we can.
Hey, I just want you guys to know there are people out here listening to every word. We're hanging on your every word, okay? And we
Great.
appreciate what you guys are doing for us. I would like to sympathize for 1 second with Lisa. In 2016, when Parks was trying to cram $1 million building down our throat in the sandlot that we did not want. It's kind of hard now that we do need a new office, and they're trying to backtrack on this. There should be no problem with an office building being replaced. It's the farmer's market. And Lisa's right. When they come out there to assess that ground, they need to assess the whole place. It's not that big. We need to find out where we are at on that land and make it right from the ground up. That doesn't mean it happens all at once. It just means you find out where you are at. And then, of course, the office would be the first priority. Go with that if it needs to be repaired, if it can be, or replace it if it need be. The winterization, we can see it taking a back seat to this. Another thing, to save on the drawings, and we've been through so many drawings that have come out of the pocket of the funds that we could be using for good things. Let the community get involved. Let the schools have a contest. Who can come up with the best design? It doesn't have to be perfect, but together as a community, we could work out the kinks. We could work with an architect down the road. Again, it doesn't have to all be done at once. The office is a priority, and for God's sakes, not one parking spot can be eliminated. It would take a lot of brainstorming, but it could be done. And again, it doesn't have to be done all at once, but we need to find out what we're facing and what we need to do. And I think the community could help us with these fancy designs that in the past, big money has been paid. When the high school kids, the community high, the university kids, any school, any organization, I think if we got the community involved, we would be surprised at the talent that would come out. And I just want to thank you guys again for being there and all the work that is involved with this. To bring up one last quick thing, the bird nests are hanging way down. They look like crap. Hopefully when they come to repair the gutters, we'll get those cleaned out at maybe the same time. Anyway, thanks you guys. You're doing a great job. See you at the farmer's market.
Thanks, Debbie. See you on Saturday.
Thanks, Debbie.
All right. Is there anyone else that would like to participate in public comment tonight? All right. I am not seeing anyone else.
All right. Well, I guess we will adjourn then. It is 6:32.
All right. Fantastic. So next month we will all be meeting in person at
Yay.
CO. So see you there.
All right. Excited to see everybody in person. Thanks for getting on the call, Jeb. I hope you didn't have any problems with driving.
No, it was fine. I apologize for being late.
Oh, it's nasty out there.
No worries.
All righty.
All right. See you
In
at
person
market.
next month.
Bye-bye.